What do you do if your group gets too big? In fact, I get asked the question all the time, how big should my group be, or how small should my group be? And to be honest, I try to avoid answering the question because in the New Testament, what we see is that people met in the temple courts for public worship and instruction, and then people met house to house. They met in smaller dwellings, smaller gatherings. But what we don't know is how many people met. We don't know, was it 8 people or 80 people that met in these homes? So let's imagine your group is on the larger side. Let's say you have 20 people in your group. You will want to consider some things that you can do to help make your larger group feel small. Because with 20 people in a discussion that lasts for, let's say, an hour, each person only gets about 3 minutes to talk. But we all know how that works. There's always a few people in a group of 20 that will dominate the conversation, and they will take other people's 3 minutes. And next thing you know, only a few people talk, and a bunch of people don't get to talk. And that's not great for a group. So let me suggest some things that you can do with a larger group to help keep the dynamic small. After you've, say, gathered together at the very beginning of your group, let me encourage you to consider subgrouping. So maybe you have opening social time all together, but then when it comes to the discussion, you break into 3 smaller groups. So one group goes to the living room, one group goes to the dining room, one group goes to the family room. And for part of the discussion, they have these smaller groups. And you choose a person in each group to lead the discussion. Incidentally, it's a great way to look for future leaders. After the discussion time, maybe they all come back together so you're all one big happy group again. But by breaking in those smaller groups, more people are encouraged to participate in the conversation. The other thing you can do is, say, for prayer time, break into groups of 4. And this way, people will share their prayer requests at a much deeper level than they will in a larger group. And then more people will pray, which is part of the goal of a prayer time if they're in that smaller group. Now, let me warn you right now, the extroverts and the introverts will rise up against you on this. The extroverts will say, no, we all need to stay together. It's really important for us to stay together so basically everyone can hear what I have to say. And the introverts will say, no, if we all stay together, the extroverts will do the talking. I don't have to do any talking, so I'm much more comfortable. But that's not the recipe for a great discussion or a great group. You want to make sure everybody participates. The extroverts tone it down, the introverts tone it up a little bit. Now, there's a third thing that you can do with a large group that will help the dynamic feel small and is very missional. This involves a bigger step. And what you would do with this one is you would actually split your group in half. And half of your group would stay with you, and half of your group would go with a brand new leader. And so instead of a group of 20, now you have 2 groups of 10. In each of those groups, you could grow to groups of 20 if you wanted to do that. But it's a bigger step, I'll acknowledge that. But it's a great step that's both missional and will preserve that smaller group dynamic. So those are a few things that you can do with a larger group to help it feel like a smaller group.